Welcome back to With the First Pick. Let's talk about some of our favorite sleepers in the draft class that's now 2 days away. These young men probably won't hear their name called until Friday, maybe Saturday. We shall see. I'll go first. I got to start with my guy, Charles Grant, offensive tackle out of the College of William & Mary, the second oldest school in the country after Harvard, Traps, and Emory. I may have gone there. I may have done very poorly academically, but that's not the point of this segment. I'm just going to talk up Charles Grant, who had an opportunity to go to William & Mary on an academic scholarship. He hasn't played football very long. Didn't work out in the pre-draft process because of an injury, but he measures 6'4". He's now up to 311. He has almost 35-inch arms, which is bonkers. If you know about arm length, if you have 32-inch arms, you're going to play guard. If you have 33 to 34-inch arms, that's a great starting point in terms of the measurables and the analytics when teams talk about where they're going to play these guys. Arrived at college at 240. That's what he weighed. He played at 278 or so last year, so he's gained some weight. He was a wrestler, so he has that in his background, and started playing football his junior year of high school. I think he's going to go on day 2. The question is how high. He's going to be a developmental guy. Last year we talked about Kieran Amagaji out of Yale being a developmental athlete for the Chicago Bears. I think Charles is further along. He has an opportunity to be a much better player, and this kid loves football. It's funny. Sometimes you talk to teams and they're worried about a kid being too smart or having too many interests outside of football. Maybe that's the case with Charles Grant. He is definitely too smart. I like my players to be well-rounded. I think we're overthinking this with Charles Grant. So I love the idea of him going. I would take him in the second round and have that opportunity to start him in 2026. But we'll see what ultimately happens 2 or 3 days from now for Charles Grant. Shout out to the College of William & Mary. Next up, though, J.J. Pegues. He's listed as a defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Played at Auburn the first 2 years. He was a tight end, and he moved to the defensive side of the ball in 2021. But Emory and Traps, you guys know this as well. He was used plenty on offense for Lane Kiffin. He ran the Wildcat. He was used as a fullback. He scored 7 touchdowns last year, not defensive touchdowns. He scored 7 touchdowns as a running back with the ball in his hands. He also had 4 sacks. He is juiced up as a defensive lineman. They lined him up everywhere from inside all the way out to 7 technique. And the question is, where do you play him at the next level? Sort of the Travis Hunter question, but add 150 pounds. I think you play him along the defensive line, and then you use him in that Patrick Ricard role. But he's an upgraded version of Patrick Ricard, even Kyle Juszczyk if you want, as a runner, because of the versatility he offers. And I joke all the time, that Ole Miss defense was so good, that team should have gone undefeated just on the defensive side of the ball. But they didn't. That's okay. But J.J. Pegues is a young man that I grew to love during the draft process for his versatility, and to watch someone who weighed 309 run the ball like he was 209. That was certainly fun. All right, Emory, you're up. My 2 guys are definitely getting drafted. I'm going to be curious to see if you think your guys are going to get drafted. Those are the type of sleepers I was hoping for, but Emory pulled an Emory on his straps. He went deep cut, first guy up. Gabriel Taylor, safety out of Rice, Sean Taylor's brother. And that name rung a bell for more than one reason other than the fact that his brother Sean. I remember in 2023, he had a big interception against Michael Pratt, 7th-round pick out of Tulane last year's draft class. So he can ball, but he was not on my radar in 2024. Tell me why he's a sleeper.
Because of those same ball skills you talked about. I have him as a combo safety, my number 4 combo safety in this class. He tested well at his pro day, ran well, all of those things that you want to see athletically. And the football awareness is crazy. The spatial awareness he has for the position that can play either safety spot, can dip down and play down in the slot and cover receivers. He's a very good open field tackler. So he's checking all of those boxes you want to see from a defensive back. On top of the fact that he has the pedigree. This is a draft for not only, father-son combinations, but also siblings, because Michael Love, the wide receiver out of Long Island, his brother Julian Love, is one of the top safeties in the NFL right now. So there you see some brotherly love here as well with Gabe Taylor. I like his ability. You watch Rice's defense and you watch him just ping pong around the defense, making play after play. So I think he's one of those guys that could hear his name called on day 3. The last one is one that has been garnering a lot of buzz amongst the scouting circles. And he may not get his name called on day 3, 7th round, or he may be a high priority free agent. And that's Chandler Rogers, the quarterback out of Cal, by way of North Texas. This guy was outstanding at North Texas. Went to Cal, was supposed to be the starter there, but they went ahead and started Mendoza. But he was quietly bubbling behind the scenes, did a great job being a good teammate, but also played well when he got out there. I called the game down at the Tropical Bowl. He was down there all week long in front of pro scouts. Looked great on the move, throwing well on the move. The touch, timing, anticipation. Had a great Tropical Bowl game, which was in a pouring rainstorm. How do I know? press box was on top of the roof, and I'm out there in the rain calling this ball game. But you like that he also went to the 49ers local day, tore it up there, ran 4.5, jumped 36 in the vertical. Quiet as kept. One of those underrated players we can either hear called in round 7 or be one of those first high priority free agents at the position.
Yeah, shout out to North Texas, too. Our Haley Sutton played soccer there. We were there for the Shrine Bowl. And, Emory, if I had to guess, you wore your rubber waterproof suit on top of the stadium. Is that right?
Oh, and that's, when I'm on the All-Star game circuit, it is straight sweats, Asics, and polos. That's all you getting out of me.
You had your Hawaiian shirt on?
That's the Hula Bowl, not at the Tropical Bowl.
Okay, I got those mixed up. All right, Traps, you're up. And I thought no one loved Jack Bech more than me, and Emory likes him too. He's a Louisiana kid, LSU transfer. But Emory, Trapp said, hold my beer, because he had him as a potential top 10 pick, and Traps is what he would do mock draft, and that is that's full on April Traps there. So tell me about Jack Bech, LSU transfer, now at TCU.
Well, you're absolutely right. This segment is not long enough for how long I could rant about my love for Jack Bech as a prospect. I love the fact that going back to 2021, he is at LSU with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., all freshmen. Jack Bech led that team in catches. Transfers to TCU, does not have good quarterback play this past season. Over 60 catches, over 1,100 yards. I love how rugged and powerful he is after the catch. Forced a lot of missed tackles in those 2 seasons at TCU. And he catches everything. 4 drops on 200 career targets in college. He's not a dynamic mover. He's not going to move like Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas down the football field, but there's route running nuance and subtlety to his game. Kind of reminds me of Puka Nacua, because he can make those difficult grabs near the sideline and in traffic, can use him in the slot, use him on the perimeter, had a great Senior Bowl week. He, to me, is someone that we're going to look back upon and say he should have been a first-round pick in this draft.
And how about this for the Emory Hunt trivia to tie it all together, right? His dad, I believe, Brett Bech, was an outstanding wide receiver for LSU, caught passes from Jamie Howard, whose son, Walker Howard, was at LSU. So it's a family affair down there, man.
Amazing.
Everyone knows everyone in Louisiana, Emory. I've said that, and you've confirmed as much. Yeah, man, Jack Bech balled out in Mobile. That was fun to watch. Got the game MVP on Saturday. And look, Puka Nacua sounds crazy, and maybe some folks might say lazy, but that's exactly who I saw. And Puka ran a 4.58 or whatever, and Puka is plenty fast. I think Jack Bech in the right system in the middle of the field, he is going to eat. He's basically a big tight end who moves like a wide receiver. And I'll just say this, like, if you put him on the Rams or the 49ers, he's going to get 800 yards year one. All right, next up for you, Traps, TJ Sanders. I just talked about the Ole Miss defense being amazing. This South Carolina defense was not far behind or equal to what we saw in Ole Miss. TJ Sanders, defensive tackle out of South Carolina. What do you like about this sleeper?
I love the fact that he's a great up-the-field pass rusher. I mean, of the other defensive tackles in this class, guys who are going to be picked in front of him, Mason Graham, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, TJ Sanders' pressure rate in 4 seasons in the SEC at South Carolina was better than Graham's, better than Walter Nolan's, and the same as Derek Harmon's. And this class is so loaded that I think that's why we haven't talked about him a lot. Tested well in Indianapolis, a little over 6'3", just under 300 pounds with long arms. He's kind of the prototype size-wise for what teams want out of that 3 technique that's just going to get up the field, win with first step burst, and a pretty developed pass rush move arsenal. So I think TJ Sanders, someone that didn't hit the transfer portal, and you're right, was on a absolutely loaded South Carolina defense last season. It's just going to be a quality pro for the next decade in the NFL.
Yeah, TJ Sanders, Kyle Kennard, Tonka Hemingway. Then you move. They have Knight at the linebacker position. You have Nick Emmanwori, the safety, who has a chance to be a first-round pick. And the other thing I'll point out, we talked about the Jacksonville Jaguars at 5, maybe taking Mason Graham, maybe waiting to get a defensive lineman. To Traps' point, you can get TJ Sanders in the second round. There's going to be a ton of guys. Derek Harmon, you mentioned. Deion Walker, who played hurt last year, was a top 10 talent coming into the summer. Tyleek Williams. The list goes on and on. So that's also worth keeping in mind when you're watching the draft on Thursday night and you're wondering why a defensive lineman doesn't go early. Even to the 49ers, that could be a situation too, Traps, where maybe San Francisco waits.
Yeah.
But just keep in mind that this defensive line class is so incredibly deep that you can focus on offensive line and circle back. Completely opposite from what happened last year.